Record will reflect the presence of counsel and the defendant. The jury has not been brought in yet. Counsel and I discussed a matter off the record that counsel now wishes to put on the record before we bring the jury in.
I do have something to put on the record. We have a witness that we intend on calling. In fact, she was here a couple days ago waiting outside pretty much the entire day. Her name's Karen Lowe. She's with the FBI. She's a forensic scientist. Unfortunately, because of travel plans, we had to fly her back, so she's no longer here. I'm moving to present her testimony via video, and we can do that through FaceTime. We've done this before. I know the court's aware of that in this courtroom. Through the iPad, we'd be able to project it so everybody could see her testifying and hear her as well. I don't think there would be any prejudice to anybody, since counsel would be able to cross-examine her essentially the same way he would be able to do in court. I know there's a little bit of a difference there, but given that she was here and we can make that available via video, I'd ask the court to allow that later today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin.
Judge, I appreciate that it's an exceptional situation, given that I actually know that she was here 2 days ago, and because of scheduling, they ran out of time, and she had to go back to Virginia. So it's not like it's a small travel. I take no position for those reasons.
All right. So let me make this record. There's quite a bit of precedence in trials to have witnesses, when necessary, appear by, and we say video, it's not Zoom, it's, as Mr. Barker said, FaceTime, but as long as the witness can be seen and heard very clearly on the screen when that witness is being questioned, I grant the state's request to allow her to appear over a video link under these circumstances where, again, she was here waiting to testify earlier in the week, and state wasn't able to call her at that time, and she cannot, as I understand it, with travel commitments or work commitments. Is that what it is? She's got other work commitments, Mr. Barker, that she can't be here personally?
I don't.
Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, she had a scheduled vacation. Okay. Okay. All right. So again, under these circumstances, as long as the witness can be clearly seen and clearly heard, the court allows the witness to testify over a video link. All right. Are we ready to call for the jury?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We'll call for the jury right now. The record will reflect the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Mr. Barker, you may call your next witness.
State calls.
Do you solemnly swear, under penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
You state your name for the record, please.
My name is Richard William Maclean,
How do you spell your last name?
Maclean.
Thank you. Where do you work?
I work for the Arizona Department of Public Safety in the Northern Regional Crime Laboratory.
And that's up here in Flagstaff?
That's here.
How long have you been there?
Over 22 years.
And what do you do there?
I'm a latent print examiner. My title is a forensic scientist, but I'm assigned to the latent print unit.
Have you been doing latent print examination that entire 22 years?
Yes.
Let's talk about your education background a little bit. Where'd you go to school?
I graduated with a bachelor's in chemistry from Northern Arizona University. With that, I was able to get the job that I currently have
At DPS?
at DPS.
And is there some type of education or training that goes on to be a latent print examiner?
Yes, my first year was on-the-job training under experienced latent print examiners, and at the end of the training, I was competency tested before I could do casework. And I'm also proficiency tested every year to make sure I'm staying competent. And I could also add that in 2009, I was certified by the International Association for Identification.
All right. And are you part of any associations related to that forensic work?
The International Association for Identification and the Arizona Identification Council.
All right. Now, the lab you work at, it's a DPS lab. There are other forensic scientists that work there. Is that right?
There are.
And some do DNA, some do serology, some do fingerprinting like yourself.
Yes.
Okay. And is that laboratory, is it audited?
Oh, yes. It's audited yearly. And the reason why it's audited, we are accredited by an agency called ANAB. And so because we're part of ANAB, we have a bunch of procedures we have to follow, and part of that is being audited.
All right. Let's talk about latent print examination and that process. Just take us through the steps of how you identify a latent print.
So you're talking about the comparison, not the processing?
Well, let's talk about the processing first and then
Okay.
we'll talk about comparison. Go ahead.
Well, I would get evidence from the property and evidence unit. I'd receive it, I'd note how the box looked, make sure it's sealed up, and I'd open it, describe the evidence. Then I would do a visual examination for possible visual latent prints. If there's no visual latent prints, I will determine the best method for developing prints. In this case, it happened to be super gluing. After that, I did another examination for any latent prints. And lastly, I used a dye stain on the evidence, which helps make the super glue fluoresce so it's easier to see. And if I saw prints, I would photograph it, and then I'd evaluate the prints to see if they have value for possible exclusion, possible identification, or if they have no value at all.
Let me ask you to define some terms for us a little bit. So latent prints, sometimes we refer to these as fingerprints, but what is a latent print?
Latent print is a print that is usually invisible and it has to be developed to be seen.
All right. And are latent prints, did they come from fingerprinting?
Latent prints come from when you touch an object. If you have sweat on your hands, you need something on your hands. If your hands are clean, you won't leave a print. If there's sweat or maybe oils you pick up and you touch an object, you may leave behind a print. The object has to be smooth and receptive. Rocks, anything textured like clothing are terrible for leaving latent prints behind. This plastic bottle would be pretty good. It's kind of smooth. Another factor for finding prints is if I were to grab the bottle hard, I would distort the prints in a way, or if I were to move my fingers around, I would leave a print, but it'd be so distorted that it would have no value for any kind of analysis.
And is what you're looking for, is it the ridge detail in that print?
Yes, if you look at your palms and your fingers, and it's also on the bottom of your feet, you have these ridges that run through all over your palm and fingers. They form patterns on the fingers. And if you look closely, the lines just don't keep going. There's ridge endings where they stop. There's bifurcations where one ridge will split in two, and there's dots. So that's the minutia, that's the detail that we would be looking at for a comparison.
And so the latent print is what you can find after someone's touched something. Do you have to examine it under a microscope, or do you just visually identify it?
Well, first, I would take the photo, and then I would enlarge it. When I started, it was microscopes, but we have digital cameras now, so it's a bit different. So now we have large monitors, and we can put a latent print up on the screen, which makes it much easier than it used to be to mark all the points, see how much you have, and determine whether it has any kind of value.
All right. You were talking just a minute ago about processing a print, and so when you receive an evidence item, which may or may not contain a print, you don't know at the time, is that right?
I don't know at the time.
And you're just being asked then to examine the item to see if you can find a latent print for a comparison, right?
That's correct.
And then there are these processes that you may go through. I think you mentioned there's a visual examination. You're just looking at it with your eyes, right?
Yes.
You mentioned something about super glue. What is it that you're doing with super glue?
Oh, super glue, it's also called cyanoacrylate. We have a chamber that we put evidence in. You have to raise the humidity in the chamber, and then on a hot tray, you put a little tray of super glue, and it turns into an aerosol, and it polymerizes on any residue, fingerprint residue. So it develops the fingerprints. Before, we used to use a lot more black powder, but super glue's a bit better.
Yeah, and I think we've seen on TV the brushing with the black powder on scenes, right?
Yeah, and on scenes, we still do that because it's kind of impractical to super glue giant objects.
Right. So you mentioned the super glue, and then there was a dye you talked about. What was that about?
Well, there's two that I use, RAM, and another one is basic yellow, and they both just fluoresce under an alternate light source. You use a filter to block out the blue light, and the prints will glow yellow, and it just makes it easy to see.
All right. Now you mentioned a couple ways that a print can be left. So obviously touching an item, it's got to be smooth enough, right, to capture that ridge detail.
Yes.
And if it's too rough, you won't see it. What other limitations are there, though, for leaving a print?
Well, the limitations are like you have to have something on your fingers. The surface has to be receptive, how you touch it. And lastly, there's environmental factors that add in. Even if you did leave a latent print, if you left something out in the weather for a while, if it's windy, raining, anything, the print that was there can be easily rubbed off because they're very fragile.
You said rubbed off. If I touch this this podium here and left a latent print, could I come later and just wipe it off?
Yeah, easy.
Now, the item that you were asked to identify for comparison, what was that item?
There were two items. There was a section of duct tape, and there was also a rifle.
All right, let's talk about the duct tape first.
Okay.
How did you become aware of the duct tape?
Well, I was called to consult at the medical examiner's office. They wanted to cut off the duct tape without ruining any evidence. So I just gave them some advice of, just make one little cut. And more importantly, I had them put it inside flat in a plastic bag so it didn't stick too hard to it. Sometimes I've had evidence submitted like duct tape bundled up, and that's a disaster. So I just made sure that it got tape.
All right, so you were at the autopsy for that?
Just for that, just for, 5 minutes. I don't know how long.
Okay, just to advise on how to remove the duct tape.
Yes.
And the duct tape, you recall how it was positioned on the body?
I know she was bound and it was around her wrists.
All right. May I approach the witness, Judge? Recognize that, sir?
Yes.
Does that depict the duct tape around the wrists of the individual that you saw at that autopsy?
That looks just like the duct tape, and at the medical examiners, there wasn't all the debris and pine needles there.
Okay. All right, move to admit 177.
Objection. 177 is admitted. You may.
It's up on the screen so we can see.
Oh. That is the duct tape. Between the wrists, like, they use a scalpel, a clean scalpel, and just sliced straight down. And just took the whole thing off.
Just looking at this photo, is there any what we later do with the process?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, other than if you're asking if I had good expectations of getting latent prints, is that what you're asking? Okay, my expectations weren't very good just because I was aware that the person was out for a long time, and usually when evidence is out for an extended period of time, I don't get latent prints on it.
The fact that this individual was injured,
That's not good for prints.
talked about environmental factors. What about outside if it's becoming warm and then it's freezing at night and then becoming warm again over and over again? How does that affect possible latent print?
Well, that would involve moisture just from the condensation every morning. And just the constant weather changing and moisture being present could dissolve away the prints.
Now, despite all that, and you knew going into it this could be a difficult task, did you still go through that process of trying to examine the item and see if you could find any latent prints?
Yes, I did examine the tape, and when I finished examining it, I froze the tape and I took the layers apart, hoping I could find prints in between the layers, and I did not find prints in between the layers.
So what was your ultimate conclusion after examining that duct tape?
There are no latent prints that I can use for comparison.
All right. Now, you mentioned another object or item that you examined. What was that item?
I don't know if it was a Marlin. I'd have to look at my notes. It was a rifle
Would it help
with a scope.
did you write a report?
Yes, I did.
Would it help to look at that report to identify the item?
Yes.
All right. May I approach the witness? Showing it was marked as 178. Is that the report you authored?
This is my report.
All right. And can you tell us, did you identify the rifle by the make and model?
Yes, it's a Marlin Model 60 rifle and has a serial number of 011222158. And I believe it had a scope and a cover.
All right. Take us through the process with this item.
Same exact process. I got it from Property and Evidence. This one was in a box. I opened the box, took notes of what it was, the rifle, and then I started the examination, the visual examination first, then super glue second. I didn't find any, let me see one. I did take a photo of ridge detail. After super gluing, there was a little section of ridge detail, I believe, on the stock. I took a photo of it and I determined that it had no value for comparison. And then lastly, I use RAM, which is another dye stain that fluoresces under an alternate light source to help me find prints. And then I did a second super glue and a second ramming just with the scope cover removed, just in case there was prints inside that didn't get super glued. So I just took it off and did that by itself, the scope cover.
All right. So ultimately, I think you said there was just one portion of some ridge detail that you found?
Yeah, it was just a small portion, not enough to completely know, but probably part of a palm, but it had almost no points and they weren't clear. And I wasn't able to, I would never be able to identify anybody or exclude with that little bit of detail. So that's what makes it no value to me.
All right. So the ultimate conclusion, examining the gun, was what?
Well, I found no prints of value on the gun.
Now, how many guns have you examined in your career, do you think?
Lots.
Okay. Is lots 100 or 1,000?
1,000's probably more like it, maybe even more.
Okay. How often is it that you find a latent print of value on a gun?
About a little over 10%, maybe 15% of the time.
Is there something about firearms that makes it difficult to find latent prints?
Yeah, some of the problems is they have textured areas where you hold it, and texture is no good for latent prints. And also, just so they don't rust, they have a coating that kind of repels moisture. They're a little oily, so they're just not as successful as just other plain items. It has factors against it.
Now, the other thing we mentioned before is guns, like any object, can be wiped down afterwards, right?
Yes,
And that would prevent finding any latent prints.
wiping down would obliterate latent prints.
And if it wasn't completely obvious, wearing gloves, that would prevent someone from leaving latent prints, right?
Yes, and then you wouldn't leave any latent prints.
You have a moment, Judge?
May.
All right. There was one other report you had in this case, and that was regarding a comparison to Sasha Krause. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And what were you asked to do in that sense?
Compare the morgue prints, the deceased person's print, to a Texas, it looked like a driver's license type print, and I did that.
All right. So you're looking at a print that was taken the DMV or somewhere in Texas, comparing it to what the medical examiner retrieved?
Yes,
Okay. And were you able to make that comparison?
I did do a comparison.
All right. And what was the result?
Result, I identified the print on the driver's license as being the same person that left the print on the medical examiner's deceased card.
All right. So identifying then Sasha Krause as the deceased.
Yeah, that's who was the unknown victim.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Good morning, Mr. Maclean. Good to see you.
Good morning.
I just have a few follow-up questions for you. I want to talk about, you were asked regarding the gun, the texture of the gun, the manufacture of the gun makes it not very conducive for fingerprinting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it the opposite for duct tape and tape? The adhesive in the surface of tape makes it a good surface, makes it conducive for finding prints?
I'd say that I have about the same success rate on duct tape. It is slightly textured, and just overall, there's I read an article where like success on duct tape was about, I'd have to look at it, I do have it, but it was like, let's just say 13%, somewhere around that line. So it's not really a great surface.
Adhesive surface, have you had cases where prints were left on the adhesive surface?
I have.
I want to ask you about the representation you made about ridge detail found on the rifle. Is that correct?
Yes.
If someone were wearing gloves and handling a weapon, there would be no ridge detail. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Now, if somebody was not wearing gloves, wiped down a weapon, there might be ridge detail left. Is that correct?
Yeah, if they didn't do it thoroughly.
Did you see evidence of wipe down? Well, let me back up. Sometimes can you tell from the nature of an item that you're examining whether the item might have been wiped?
It's really hard to do, and I've had some drug bundles that I suspected because it looked wet and just streak marks like they wiped it off. Those made me think they were probably wiped off, but most evidence, I don't even have a clue.
And you don't have that clue here.
I have no clue.
No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Parker?
Thank you. Just a couple of follow-up. Regarding the gun, Rich, if if someone handled a gun and then gave it to another person and they handled it, what would happen to prints? Would they be confused by other prints? Would they be wiped away by someone else handling it? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, if other people are handling something, they could obliterate prints, or they could leave their prints over the other person's prints, which then I'd have two prints, which becomes difficult to compare. And yeah, just handling a weapon can obliterate prints.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any of the jurors have a question for this witness before he's excused? Apparently so. I'm going to read you the juror's question. In the layers of tape, would outside conditions still destroy the latent prints? I think there's a letter missing. I think it means that. Let me back up. In the quote, layers quote of tape, would outside conditions still destroy the latent prints that could possibly be there? Example, the beginning of the tape strip closest to the victim's skin, or the layer of tape that had been wrapped on top of the layer that touched the layer that would be the second layer.
That's correct. I had some hope that they would be protected from the elements. I still found no prints. I think just the process of separating it is not very good for prints. I have developed really good prints in between layers, but it's just not all the time. It could be touched and you might not leave prints behind, and maybe just separating it. I froze it to separate it, makes the tape less sticky. That could have obliterated something too.
Any other questions of this witness before he is turned over for follow-up to the attorneys from the jury? All right, apparently not. Mr. Barker, any follow-up?
Just briefly. So you're talking about, again, the delicate nature of these prints. Is the glue or adhesive, does that have any effects on the print itself in between those layers?
Sometimes it preserves it in there. If they leave a good print, it's going to be pretty well preserved. But tape is not that, I don't have great success on tape. It's probably just less than 15% of the time I get good prints on tape. So it's just chance. Latent prints are basically chance impression. There's a chance you'll leave them behind, and there's a chance you won't. And in this case, there were no prints left behind.
And the chance, just from your experience, is very low.
It is low, and from articles I read on specifically duct tape.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
I can just maybe go a little bit big picture here, just to make sure I'm clear.
You have the microphone right near you there. That's okay.
Just to follow up, sir, you mentioned it, essentially a two-step process. First, you look to see if you can find a print, and then you see if you can make an identification. Is that fair?
Yes.
So in this case, you didn't get to phase two, trying to make an identification, correct?
No, that's correct.
You've given a known set of prints to look to compare if you did
Objection
find.
outside the scope.
Okay, hold on just a second. Sustained.
No further questions. Thank you.
All right, may this witness be excused?
Yes, thank you.
All right, you can step down, you're excused. Mr. Barker, you may call your next witness.
Thank you.
Trevor Caldwell.
Do you solemnly swear, under penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Do you mind taking off your mask if you're comfortable doing that?
Is it okay if I leave it on?
Actually, can you please take it off? Actually, hold on a second. Here's the situation. I don't want to make it difficult for you, but you are more than, I mean, if you want me to put my mask on while you're testifying, I'm happy to do that, but I can tell you that you're more than 6 feet away from me. I've been fully vaccinated, as has my court reporter and the attorneys actually as well. But to be able to judge a witness's credibility, the jury needs to see your face. So would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, it's just while you're testifying, just while you're sitting right there. Okay, if you're sure you're comfortable.
Yes.
With it. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
That's okay.
All right. Thank you, sir, for doing that. I think I asked you to state your name.
Trevor Caldwell.
Okay. And last name, how do you spell it?
Caldwell.
And where do you work?
I work on Luke Air Force Base. I am what's called an Airman dorm leader.
Okay, and what does that mean?
So essentially it means I oversee the dormitory facilities on the installation where the junior airmen live. Just manage the facilities and ensure the airmen's needs are taken care of.
And Luke Air Force Base, just for those who don't know, where is that located?
It's located in the Phoenix area in the West Valley.
Okay. How long have you been down there?
I have been at Luke Air Force Base. Next month will make 5 years.
All right. So the dorm facilities, who lives in those dorm facilities?
Typically the junior airmen coming straight from training. They're just transitioning into the Air Force. So the junior members, the younger enlisted.
All right. So junior members, and are they single? Are they married? How does that work?
Yes, a large majority of them are single. There are some stipulations where married individuals can reside in the dormitory facilities if their spouse is stationed overseas. But I would say a great majority of them are single
Okay.
individuals.
And how many? Do you know how many are living in the dorms?
It can range at any given time from about 450 to 500 or so airmen.
All right. Now, as part of overseeing those dorm facilities, do you also oversee surveillance video that's attached to some of those facilities?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how does that work? How many cameras are there? Do you know?
So there are roughly a few hundred cameras, and they are placed on the outside of all of our 9 buildings throughout the campus.
All right. So these cameras are not inside dorms, correct?
No, sir.
All right. Just on the exterior of the buildings.
Yes, sir.
Now, in this case, were you asked to retrieve some surveillance video from some of the dorm buildings at the Luke Air Force Base?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you remember when that happened?
I would, if I would to believe, it may be around March of 2020,
Okay.
roughly.
So sometime last year, early part of last year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, these videos, you've obviously watched a lot of the surveillance video, not just in this case, but in other cases, right? Is there anything wrong with the timing of any of these videos?
There has been no timing issues that I have seen. It's kind of hard to check that, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But to my knowledge, if it's off, it would be marginal, like seconds, if anything, that to my knowledge.
Okay. So, in essence, these video cameras should be synchronized. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then the timestamps on these videos, would that be the local time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would it be military time? If
I
you know.
believe it is in military time. I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest.
Right. Did the Air Force contract with some outside agency to install these?
Yes.
Okay.
They've been around since before my time, so I'm not.
Now, in reviewing some of the videos, have you noticed at times that the video will glitch or it will skip?
Yes. There are times when it does. It is motion sensor activated. I'm unsure why they do that. It's very infrequent, but yes.
So even though it's motion sensor activated, if there's motion in the camera, sometimes it'll still glitch. Is that fair?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
You may.
Should be 85. Judge, I just had a conversation with counsel. The drive, or excuse me, the exhibit is a disc. We don't have a disc drive currently available, but it is downloaded to my computer. This is exhibit 85. All about it, the court and counsel, that it's the same item, same video.
So are you, but you have it on a disc that you'll be moving to admit? So-
Yes, it is on a disc now. Unfortunately, we just don't have a disc drive available to play it.
Right,
So I intend to just present it to the witness and have him identify it on my computer first.
okay, right.
Judge, I understand the format complication. Based on the avowal, I don't have an objection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
All right, may I approach the witness?
May.
This is exhibit 85. It's shown on video. This is identified by
Yes, sir.
right. And is this one of the surveillance video shots?
Yes, sir.
Segment.
Yes, sir.
Now, are all these videos taken?
Yes, sir.
Any objection?
None.
85 is admitted.
All right, may I publish, Judge?
You may.
All right, again, this is Exhibit 85. And Sergeant, I'll just have you identify the areas we're looking at. And we won't play the entire video. We'll play that with another witness. But let me have you identify it first here for the jury. All right, we're looking at one of the segments of video. This is, we'll just please identify the date and time and also what we're looking at.
So this is surveillance from January 18th, 2020 at, believe I see 0831. And this is from one of our dormitory facilities, Building 542 on the south side, southeast specifically.
All right, thank you. And these segments of video, do you know how long they typically last?
It will greatly vary depending on the amount of motion occurring during that time. It could be very short within seconds, or it could go on for possibly up to a minute.
All right. Just show a couple more here. All right. Can you identify this segment?
So this is on the same date, January 18th, 2020. Looks to be about 3 minutes later, 0834. And this is another one of our dormitory facilities, building 634. And this is the west-facing side, but on the south end of the building.
All right. Thank you. And then just a couple more. Can you identify this segment?
So this is the same date, January 18th, 2020, 0834. The same building. It is on the opposite end that we just observed, so the north side of the building. And it is viewing the street in between building 634 that we previously looked at and building 542, which is across that street, which we first looked at.
All right. Thank you. We have a moment, Judge.
You may.
All right, that's all I have, Sergeant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
Sir, just have one follow-up question for you. It's well known, would you agree, that there are surveillance cameras on the base?
That is hard to confidently answer.
They're affixed to the exterior of the buildings, correct?
Yes, sir.
They're visible to anybody who walks by or is in the area. Is that not true?
Yes, sir.
And you're saying that you're not aware of whether or not people who arrive at the base, new recruits, new enlistees, are made known of that?
We don't consciously make them known of it. Some are just situationally aware, I would say. And I would say as a young airman, a majority probably are aware that they are there.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Barker?
Nothing. Thank you.
Jurors have any questions for this witness before the witness is excused from the jury again? All right, no question. I don't see any indication the jury has any questions. Mr. Barker, may this witness be excused. You may be excused, and if you want to wear your mask when you leave, we sure appreciate your willingness to take it off while you testify.
Honor.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You as well.
Mr. Barker, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. The state calls Adrian Morales.
Here we go, I believe.
Do you solemnly swear, under penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Appreciate it.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Do you mind taking your mask off just while you testify? You can put it on as soon as you leave. And I failed to mention to the last witness, so let me mention to you, that the bailiff is sanitizing between each witness because of COVID, and we're trying to keep everyone safe. And I assure you, we've done a lot of measuring, and my court reporter and I and the attorneys are quite a distance from you, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that I've been vaccinated, so has the court reporter, so have the attorneys, because the attorneys might approach you to hand you something, for example.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Barker, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Yep. My name is Adrian Morales.
And where do you work?
I work for the Office of Special Investigations.
All right. And what is that exactly?
So Office of Special Investigations is a DoD investigative agency assigned to the Department of the Air Force. We oversee the Air Force and Space Force for all federal level investigations and counterintelligence operations.
All right, so this is the investigative branch of the Air Force then?
Correct, sir.
Okay. And what is your role there at OSI?
So I am a special agent of OSI. I am assigned to OSI Phoenix, Detachment 421 at Luke Air Force Base. I oversee fraud investigations, criminal investigations, counterintelligence operations, anything affecting Luke Air Force Base and DoD personnel.
All right, how long have you been there?
I've been there I'm on my 4th year.
At OSI or at Luke Air Force Base or the?
Both.
Okay. And prior to that, did you have any investigative experience?
Prior to that, negative. I was just a regular airman to the DoD.
So how does one enter into OSI?
An airman assigned to the Air Force has the opportunity to cross-train towards the end of their first enlistment. You go through a vigorous selection process, and then you go to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center at Glencoe, Georgia, where you get certified to become a law enforcement officer.
All right. Now, were you asked to coordinate efforts in an investigation with Coconino County?
Correct.
And who was that in reference to?
What do you mean in reference to?
Suspect.
Mark Gooch.
All right. And was he an airman down in Luke Air Force Base at the time?
At the time, yes.
All right. And what was your role in that? And just broadly speaking, what were you asked to do?
So in reference to that particular investigation, I was asked to extract the cellular device along with conducting surveillance.
Okay. Let's talk about the cellular device first. What are we talking about there?
So after we received the authority to seize the cell phone, I conducted a cellular extraction with our Cellbrite, which is a mobile extracting device or system capable of extracting information from laptops, cell phones, anything like that.
All right. Let's just back up a little bit. Whose phone was it?
This was Mark Gooch's.
And how was it retrieved from him? Did you grab it from him or did someone else?
Coconino did.
Okay. And they handed it over to you?
Correct.
All right. And then you said it's called Cellbrite?
Correct. Cellbrite is the system, the program.
All right. And it essentially just dumps all of the data from the phone onto another device. Is that right?
Correct. And creates working copies as well.
Okay. And then are you able then to look into the device and see what action or acts have been taken on that device?
Correct. Essentially, it makes a digital copy of the device and allows you to view things such as images, videos, text messages, web browsing history. It is a very thorough system.
All right. And after you extracted Mark Gooch's phone, did you go into it at all?
Yes.
All right. And what were you looking for exactly?
So at the time, we were just like a normal investigation, trying to piece together the 5 W's, who, what, where, why. I went back to, basics 101, what kind of searching, web browsing patterns the individual is doing, who he's texting, what is the fundamentals of, or what is his pattern of life type of deal. And that's what the first 48 hours consisted of.
All right. Now, prior to that, were you briefed on what the investigation was concerning?
Correct.
All right. And you were aware that there was a missing person in Farmington, New Mexico?
I was aware, yes.
Okay. So what types of things did you identify on that phone that stood out to you?
First thing that stood out to me is an individual who was just interviewed, searching or referencing the Facebook page of Sasha Krause.
All right. So what Facebook page was it?
I believe it was the missing person bulletin on Facebook.
From an agency?
From Farmington, New Mexico.
Okay. Was it the police station or San Juan County?
That was the San Juan County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. So there was a Facebook page referencing Sasha Krause's disappearance, and how did you find it on that phone?
One of the things that I was looking for was key phrases such as Arizona, Flagstaff, New Mexico, Farmington, and it was kind of like a mixture of all those keywords that led me to that particular webpage.
All right. And when was he visiting that? Do you know?
So specific dates, I'd have to reference my notes, but I believe that was following the initial notification of the disappearance. So shortly after San Juan County placed the Facebook bulletin that the individual in question was referencing it.
All right. Would that have been January or February of last year?
It would have been, yes.
Any other web searches or websites that he visited that you took note of?
Websites, no, but there was more in information in the cell phone that was of interest.
All right. Let's talk about other things in the cell phone then. What else did he find?
So I, as a resident of Arizona, I am familiar with the Flagstaff scenic route. During one of the text messages, there was a picture of what I believe was a I-17. I made a note of that. Conversations with other individuals kind of sounded like law enforcement entities, techniques, things like that I found interesting.
All right. Let's talk about the Flagstaff or the I-17 route. So was this a photo that you saw?
Correct. It was of a particular exit.
Okay. And why was that significant to you?
Well, that was significant because that's where the individual, our deceased was located. So I thought it was interesting that the individual in question was in that area during the period of time we were looking into.
Now, the photo on the phone, does it have a timestamp on it that indicated it was during a time that the individual has disappeared, Sasha Krause?
Correct. There is metadata that timestamped the photo on approximately the same period of time that the individual disappeared.
All right. Anything else in the phone that you took note of?
Yeah, it's more tailored towards like the pattern of life. So is that what you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean by pattern of life?
I'm no, psychology expert or anything like that, but
Foundation,
Sustained.
relevance.
Sorry. You got a second objection.
It was relevance,
Ground.
foundation and relevance. Thank you.
Sustained on both grounds.
All right. So without getting into the psychology of anything,
right.
Was there something about, well, what do you mean by pattern of life? Can you talk about what that means?
Just like I wouldn't necessarily use the word disgust, but just like a certain taste towards the Mennonite community, because our deceased was associated to that.
Object again on foundation, acts not in evidence.
Sustained.
Did you observe text messages between Mark Gooch and his brothers?
Correct.
All right. And did it reference Mennonites?
Correct.
All right. And the nature of those texts, did that give you concern?
Correct. As a law enforcement officer, I believe those text messages were of concern.
All right. So moving on from the cell phone itself, you mentioned something about surveillance. What was your task with surveillance?
Very limited. Our main objective with surveillance was to just make sure that our individual in question did not leave Luke Air Force Base or attempt to dispose of anything that we would deem probative to the investigation, such as evidence.
All right. So you were just keeping an eye on things, making sure nothing was moved or he didn't leave the base. Is that right?
Correct.
Now we had Sergeant Caldwell just testify about some surveillance video. Are you aware of surveillance video in that area on Luke Air Force Base?
I am aware of that video, yes.
And are you aware of surveillance video that was retrieved from around the dorm where Mark Gooch lived?
Yes.
Okay. What dorm was he living at the time?
I believe that would have been the dormitory. I'd have to reference my notes, but it's building 600, series 600 of the dormitory.
All right. Do you remember which room he was in?
Second floor, no, sir.
Okay. Did you assist Sergeant Caldwell in retrieving certain videos of interest?
I provided dates, yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been admitted as Exhibit 85. All right, sorry about that. This is Exhibit 85. And actually, let me start at a different perspective here. Sorry about that. So, can you identify what we're looking at here?
We are looking at his dormitory building, building 634, third floor.
All right, 634.
Correct.
Okay. And the date and time up here, I don't know if you can see that. What does that say?
18 January 2020. Time. Can't really see the time, but I know it says Saturday.
All right. Would it help if you stepped down and looked closer at the screen?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, can we have him step down? Thank you.
So if you'd step down and just come right over, this is called the well in front of the bench, just come down. The bailiff can sort of direct you there. Okay?
If you want to use the microphone here,
We could get him a handheld
okay,
microphone too.
great, thank you.
I believe. There we go.
0833.
All right, so that's 8:33 in the morning.
Correct.
All right. I'm going to push play now and have you just identify anything that's happening in the video that we should take note of.
Okay. That's the individual in question proceeding to enter his Volkswagen.
All right, so the person in question you're talking about is who?
Mark Gooch.
We can keep the lights off, sir. There's going to be more. Yeah, just go ahead and keep them on. Stay right there.
Okay.
So that's one segment we looked at. And is this the same date and time?
Yep. 18 January, 8:33 in the morning. Building 634, second floor. So different angle, same building.
All right, just a different floor here.
Correct.
Okay, let's push play on this. On the previous video, we saw a person you identified as Mark Gooch. Do we see him now?
Yep. Mark Gooch exiting what appears to be his dormitory room. Approaching the parking lot. And entering his vehicle.
All right, let me take one more perspective of that area. Just describe what we're looking at here.
18 January, 0833 in the morning, same building, first floor, southbound. Mark Gooch exiting the stairwell, holding something in his hands, entering the parking lot, proceeding to his vehicle. Opening the door and entering the vehicle.
All right, thank you. I'll tell you when to turn them on. We'll just turn them off for a while.
Mike, if you can just go ahead and leave the lights off.
Sorry, I'm just blanking it so that I can, not showing anything that's not the video here. Thank you.
Mark will let you know when he's done, I believe.
All right, now point out what we're looking at in this view.
So here we're looking at a different angle on the building adjacent to Mark Gooch's. Same date, 18 January, 8:34 in the morning, third floor angle.
All right, let's push play on this. See any movement here?
So here we see his vehicle making a left. Yep, making a left out of the parking lot, proceeding to the defect parking lot.
What is a defect?
The defect is the dining facility where all the airmen have breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Okay.
So entering the dining facility parking lot.
And where does this road go that car is traveling on?
You follow that road, you will eventually hit an intersection where you have to make a left. If you make a left, you will be en route to one of our gates. You would be nearing the commissary, fuel station, all that good stuff.
All right. Let me switch to a different view now. It's a little out of order, but describe what we're seeing here.
So this is the same building, building 634, same date, same time frame, 8:34 a.m., parking lot entrance. See the vehicle doing reverse, out of sight, exiting dormitory 634, making a left.
All right, so this is just a different perspective of that same action we saw before, right?
Correct, making a right towards the dining facility, as we just watched.
All right, so that was, again, you were mentioning all those on the same date, basically the same time in the morning, right?
Right.
All right,
Same time frame, same date.
All right, let's go to the next day. Sorry, okay, here we go. Describe what we're seeing here.
So this is the next day, 19 January, 06:55. So 6:55 in the morning, last angle, building 634, parking lot entrance. We see the vehicle in question returning the parking lot 634. And it's out of angle, but it looks like it parked where he exited the first time.
Let's go to the next segment. Describe this one.
This is 19 January, same time, 06:54 in the morning.
0656.
Sorry, 06:56 in the morning. Same building, different angle, car pulling into the parking lot, approaching the parking spot.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Yep, here we have same date, similar time, 06:56, second floor, same vehicle entering the parking lot, proceeding to the same parking spot.
All right, let's go to the next view here.
This is same date. A couple minutes later, Mark Gooch proceeding his door to his up the stairs with what appears to be a plastic bag coming out of view. So this is building 634, first floor.
All right, the next one.
19 January, 7 in the morning. Mark Gooch approaching building 634. Appears to be carrying a bag. Coming up the steps. Going out of view.
Now, based on the shadows there, the change in lighting, does it appear the door is open to a dorm?
Correct. That's what I was about to say next. The angle is not the great, but in that vicinity is his dormitory. The door is facing perpendicular to the angle.
All right. Just a couple more here. Let's. Describe this one.
So this is 19 January, 12:45 p.m.
Sorry, let me, taking this out of order, let me go back. Sorry, let's do this one.
19 January, 12:44 p.m. Building 634, second walkway, camera angle north. See Mark Gooch walking towards a secondary parking lot with carrying what appears to be a black garbage or black bag on his right hand.
Now this looks like he's walking out of view here, but you said there was a secondary parking lot over there?
Correct. If you see, you guys that watched the video, there's a car moving in the background. There's a secondary parking spot back there that could be used to overflow or another dormitory that is south of that one.
Is there a dumpster over there?
Correct. There is a smoke pit, vending machines, and multiple dumpsters.
A couple more.
19 January, 12:42 p.m. Building 634, first walkway, southbound.
Now, while we're waiting here, we'll just let this play out, but Sergeant Caldwell was talking about how these are motion detected surveillance. Is that right?
Correct. They are motion triggered.
Have you noticed in reviewing surveillance in the past that it glitches on occasion?
Correct. The system itself will glitch from time to time, and things such as birds, vehicles, changing shadows will sometimes trigger the mechanism and start recording prematurely, or will end recording prematurely. Okay, so in this angle, we see Mark Gooch coming down the stairwell closest to his dormitory room.
And we were just talking about a glitch.
So I was just going to say that. So it appears as the video glitched, but based on the description and what and the individual was carrying before he exited the frame. That is Mark Gooch.
This is just a different view of the one we saw previously, is that right?
Correct.
All right, let's move to the last one on this exhibit.
Okay. 19 January, 12:45 p.m. We see Mark Gooch walking away from the overflow parking lot.
No longer carrying the black bag.
Out of view, no longer carrying any items in his hands.
All right, thank you. That's all I have on the video. Adrian, if you want to take a seat again. Judge, I don't know if this would be a good time to stop or not. I have some more questions, but I'm done with the video this time.
Take a break now. I was thinking about 2:30, but we could take a break now. We were actually working on the case before we brought you in, so she's been working on it. She's been recording. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take our recess now, our morning recess. So remember the admonition, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Please do not talk about the case with anyone. Please do not let anyone talk to you about it. Please keep an open mind about the case. Please do not formulate any opinions about the case. We're going to stand in recess 15 minutes. Thank you. You can step down if you wish during the recess. Please be seated. Record will reflect that the jury's been excused for the morning recess. Counsel, anything you need to put on the record or address with the court before we take our recess? All right, we stand in recess.